Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just want to do a quick talk on the economy, and so just a couple things that I saw going on today. So, looks like there has been layoffs or at least layoffs announced with GM. Three of their facilities are being shut down. One of them in Canada, and so that's pretty big news for a company like that. Again, this is supposed to be an expansion. This is supposed to be a great economy. But we have three facilities being shut down, which will directly impact people's lives. Again, people who are paid hourly, they just have a different lifestyle, than people who have, a corporate life and potentially a 401k and all these different things that they can sort of leverage, in these, transition times or times of unemployment. Most people who work in an hourly setting, especially in a manufacturing kind of environment, they're less robust, when they're laid off. And so, it's going to be really tough, for those people that worked in those three facilities. They were talking about relocating and stuff, which I have a feeling is not true, just to be totally honest. Like, there's no way they would relocate somebody when they can find hourly labor in that, whatever city that they're relocating them to, very, very easily. I probably, for like a few very, very high performing people, they might do that, but I don't think it's going to be able to offset these layoffs and shutdowns in any meaningful way. That's just corporate strategy. That's just common sense. Again, they're shutting them down because they're not profitable. They don't have enough revenue to support, those facilities being in existence. So it's not like there's magical revenue being produced somewhere else that's not supported by the right headcount. So they would, again, take a few people and reallocate them elsewhere if possible, but it would be more of a courtesy, and I think it would be for only a few people. And so, that's pretty devastating news for the people at GM. And then so Ford announced, not that they announced, but there's an article on Zero Hedge, and I also saw it on the street about Ford potentially having to lay off 25,000 people, which is just a massive number, and higher than what GM was announcing. And so again, these are just very obvious signs of a contracting economy. Like, this is supposed to be an expansion. There's been so much money infused into the market artificially, so much credit, propping up these companies, and then giving people employment for a certain amount of time. And then so people, when they're employed and there's some sort of predictability, they'll buy cars and buy stuff and carry on as usual. But now we see sort of the wheels slowing down. And so this is an issue on many levels. Obviously, you have the immediate impact of people having bills to pay and then collecting unemployment, and then that creates bigger deficits at the government level if they're paying more and more unemployment out, and that they maybe have not planned for. But then the issue too then is, like, you're not going to have those employees, in the very least, are not going to be looking to buy new cars, that's for sure, and probably not their entire family as well, if they're obviously impacted as well. So it's like the 25,000 number will become 100,000 or more affected by this. And then whatever cities that were affected, like, those people are less likely to eat out and spend money within those cities. So there's like an impact that way on the community that they live in. And then, and I've had to think about this too in the next year or so, is that, and, I do love my car, but I think that I've already planned in the next year I'll probably have to sell it, if I need to, before I will actually draw from my retirement. I thought I would just sell my car, but I actually found out I don't think it's actually going to be easy to sell my car, because what happens now is that these people who have been laid off, some of them, or maybe a lot of them, will need to start selling some of their assets to stay keep their head above water. And then that actually creates even more competition for the car companies that they were just laid off from, because now they're competition to their product. And so more and more people will be able to buy used cars and at a very, very deeply discounted rate. And so it makes buying a new car very unattractive. And so you have the double effect of, like, the people you lay off, they're obviously not going to be, customers anytime soon. And then they're actually going to be competitors, because, like, they might need to sell some of their cars and they're probably going to have to sell them at a very discounted rate, and then so people would naturally probably pick that option. And so, that's just sort of the beginning, of the wheels, the grinding ceasing, from a biblical perspective. And so, these are the things that are happening. And so, a year or so ago, I was talking to someone, and they worked at a Subaru dealership that was closed down here in Houston. Just they were not selling any cars, and so the car industry for sure is something that would see the effects of a poor economy quickly. Again, like if you're not having young people who are getting jobs, and have that whole group of people starting employment and then needing a car of their own to go to that job, that would be a sign of an expanding economy. It's like young people working, and then having enough money to like get their first car, and not be dependent on their parents' car, and really not able to use their parents' car anymore because their job might be located wherever. And so that would be a good sign to the economy. But another metric that I already know what it would be, but if like you looked at the number of new 401k accounts that are opened up by people, let's say 25 and younger, let's say that metric was plotted on a graph. We don't have that number available to us publicly, but I guarantee you the Fed does, and I guarantee you that number is flatlining or dropping. And so where people are actually having to like use the money from their 401k accounts. I'm like a year or so, maybe even sooner than that, away from doing that myself, depending on this car thing. But so these are all the things that are like really happening in the world. And so this is the actual economy that we're dealing with. And again, it's just a natural consequence of, first of all, this much money being printed, which would be more than enough for all of us in America for many, many generations, but it going into fewer and fewer people's hands. So like Jeff Bezos, the CEO at Amazon, and then Gates and all these guys, Warren Buffett, having so much money, we applaud them and look up to them and stuff. But they're not able to like spend their money. They just wouldn't be able to spend their money in many, many lifetimes and re-inject it back into the economy. There wouldn't be enough things that they would even want to buy, and so the more they're sort of holding it, the money velocity slows down because there's less of it in circulation. And so once it's in fewer and fewer people's hands, and the natural tendency is money's going towards a fewer and fewer people. That's been happening for a long time, and they're not going to all of a sudden just turn around and start pushing the money back to people randomly. Like, that's not going to happen. So this trend is going to continue and intensify. And then so once that happens, and the money is not getting to the everyday person, they're just not able to buy things for sure. And it becomes because things become about survival. And then so you have to start only spending money on things that are absolutely necessary: rent, food, electricity, utility bills, all that kind of stuff. Even cell phone stuff, I bet you, we see it's going down with Apple. All their phones they're selling less units. They're raising the price because they know that there is a certain base of users that they have that they can exploit and charge more money and keep their revenue at least flat. And so they've been doing that for the last couple of releases, but now they're not reporting the number of units that they're sold, and that's obvious because it's not going up. Obviously, if it was going up, they would report it and put a big stamp across their chest and boast about it. But obviously, the number's going down, so they're not reporting it in their conference calls and in their financial statements, which to me should not be legal. I mean, they should be forced to do that. But this is just, again, the world that we live in. There's so much financial engineering going on. But so that market is dropping. People are not replacing their phones. I have the same phone for the last couple of years, and I have no reason to change it. And it just doesn't make sense. Like, obviously, if things were a lot better and like I saw steady unemployment in my future, I would get a newer iPhone upgrade just for the hell of it. But I'm not. And even like I was at the Golf Galaxy a couple of days ago, and like, again, we're like 3 weeks out from Christmas. There was no one in the Golf Galaxy. Like, there was like a handful of people there. People would say, oh, it's just you came at the wrong time, or people are buying stuff, online and all that. But I mean, it was a Saturday afternoon and I'm in a golf galaxy. And then also certain sports and stuff, like certain things that you buy, there's still a strong, in my opinion, preference for people who are into golf to go into an actual store and like hold the club. Like there are obviously other ways to like test a club out, through demo days and all that. But being in a golf store actually makes practical sense when you're buying a golf club. You may not actually end up buying the club there, but it's a place that golf people would be, when they're about to buy stuff or whatever. And so to me, like the fact that there were so few people in that store, not necessarily again like that they're buying things, but just the foot traffic was so low this time of year, to me is another reason why there have been a lot of golf store closings in general, not just here. I've noticed that in the Northeast, where in New Jersey and stuff, like they're just less and less physical golf stores. And then you could say, well, they're just making all their purchases online, which may be true that obviously there's more and more purchases online, but it's not like a one-to-one. It's not like every dollar that it was, is being spent online, is taken away from retail. It's not the case. It's the same with Amazon. Like people are saying more and more people are buying things on Amazon, but that is true. But retail is just shrinking naturally because it's such a huge, or brick and mortar is shrinking faster, than the rate of expansion of online purchases. And so, this is again like the real economy. And so, the mainstream narrative, it's like they're starting to talk about it more because they have no choice, because it's obvious to address it. Because if they didn't at least talk about it, then people would like really catch on to the fact that they're lying and hiding something. But so they talk about it. They never talk about the fact that Americans are just broke. That's just there's no mystery to this. It's like the average person who maybe has a job does not see job security. They're in a job that is not fitting with their qualifications or their background, or they're unemployed, and or they're just just liquidating their assets and stuff. And so this is the world that we live in. There is no notion of job security, even for people at the quote unquote highest levels in a corporation. They're being replaced quickly. And so you can just go on LinkedIn or any of these business networking sites and see that people are only working at a company for like a year or two, and then either they get bored or there's just nothing to do, or they're just getting squeezed out, or fired and laid off and stuff. So, no one's working at companies 20, 30, 40 years, and just feet up on the table, just coasting. That's not happening unless you have like a very, very good network of people who have kind of locked themselves in somehow, which is possible, and people have done that. And that's really what I see people doing to create job security is, creating these networks of people and stuff that protect themselves. They protect the group as best as they can. But that's difficult to get into, and it's also a very fickle, strategy for job security, obviously. But so, that's what's going on. Again, it's just very basic common sense. You just have money, a lot of money, and I've done another video on how much money, like a rough estimate, is out there, the credit supply, and how astronomically huge that number is. It's just reaching fewer and fewer people's hands, and then to me, it won't take long whenever this thing kind of accelerates to see the effect on the street. Like here in Houston, I see a lot of homeless people, more than usual for sure. And, I suspect that it's going to become more and more common around cities everywhere. They're just going to see more and more people who are just homeless, transient, desperate, and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just a basic numbers game, like if you work for a company and some of these people might be working at these Ford and GM for even like multiple generations and stuff, and then that stops abruptly, that again is very, very difficult for people, especially in the kind of towns that these facilities will be in. It's not like there's like, you know, tons of other companies in those towns to like work for. And then so relocating is obviously very, very expensive. And then an issue with relocating too is that there's a huge glut in the housing market, that houses are not being sold very quickly, if at all. And that's, again, just from what I hear with people around me trying to sell, you know, their home, their real estate and stuff. And again, a natural consequence to the fact that there are more sellers than buyers out there right now. So anyway, just want to do a quick update. Hopefully this is not a mystery to anyone anymore that the economy in America is in the very least slowing down. But once it's in the mainstream news that things are slowing down, it's been slowing down for a while. So again, you know, we don't obviously take the mainstream narrative as authoritative in any way, but once, you know, it sort of crosses their lips, we know that we've been in trouble for a while. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.